Welcome to the channel, YouTube. My name is Mike. I go by DJAXCESS, and this is the second lesson of my beginner DJ video series. I'm taking every lesson I've learned in 15 years of DJing and sharing that information with you. If that sounds good, make sure you like the video, subscribe, and enjoy. If you haven't watched lesson 1, I'll leave a link to the video right up top here, and the rest of the plays can be found at the end of the video. As this video series progresses, I'll also be adding to my own personal DJ dictionary, and that link can be found in the description below if you'd like to follow along. Lesson number 2 is all about DJ vocabulary. Now, DJ vocabulary is important because as a beginner DJ, you're going to be watching a ton of YouTube videos, or maybe you have a mentor, and at some point they're going to say something like, hey, grab that 1/4-inch cable and plug it into the booth output, and you're not going to know what that means. You're going to get frustrated, and you're going to quit even before your DJ career really begins. So that's what this video is going to tackle, every word and tool that you're going to need as a beginner DJ. We're going to start off easy with media, songs, tracks, and records. This is going to be the source of the music that you are playing, usually coming from a laptop, a flash drive, or a vinyl record. Dex is a universal word for the device that's playing and manipulating your music. So examples would include turntables, jog wheels, playing cue buttons, pitch sliders. We're not going to get into all those words today because they're not necessarily necessary. But on a controller, the decks are like this side and this side. If you're using turntables, they are the actual turntable. And if you're using CD players, that's the CD player. So this area of the controller, or sometimes in other units, it's going to be a separate thing. Those are your decks. The mixer is the device that's controlling the volume and the sound of the media playing from the decks. So if you're using a controller, the mixer is usually the portion in the center. If you have, two turntables, the mixer will be the thing that's in the middle, unless you're doing something crazy like battle style 2 turntable. And it's basically the thing that's going to manipulate the sound and the volume coming from the decks. Amps and speakers. These are the devices that are responsible for amplifying and delivering the music to the crowd. So unpowered speakers require an amplifier, and powered speakers have an amplifier built in. The amplifier is going to take the music from the mixer, make it loud, and then deliver it to the speakers in an unpowered system. In a powered system, the mixer is going to send out to the powered system where the amp and the speaker are one unit. And I've already mentioned this, a controller is a combination device that has your decks and your mixer built in, much like this. This is the Pioneer DJAXCESS2. I've already done a review video on it up here, and I do think that this is one of the best mixers for beginner DJs because it doesn't have too many things on it. It has the essential tools, and I would consider it a professional mixing device that could get you all the way up to club DJing if that's where you wanted to go. Okay, now we're going to go over some connections. The USB cable is the method by which you connect your laptop, decks, and or mixer. There are types A, B, and C, and it's very important to know which types are which and which will go within your DJ gear setup. So again, USB cable will often connect the controller to the laptop, or the mixer to the laptop, or if you have another auxiliary device, those will typically be connected by USB, and it's important to pay attention to types A, B, and C. An XLR cable or connection is the most common and reliable connection for DJs, and it's identified by 3 prongs and a circular housing. You're going to see XLR cables a lot. They're sometimes used for lighting, but again, as a beginner DJ, all you need to know is this the most common and most reliable way to send audio from your mixer to your amplifier or powered speakers. The 1/4-inch cable or connection is the second most reliable and often seen connector in DJing. It's identified by its long cylindrical shape and pointy tip, and it's typically associated with the headphone output or the booth output or the monitor output. The RCA cable connection is the third most reliable audio connection for DJs. It's identified by 2 short prongs, and they're usually housed in red and white casings. They are typically associated with the auxiliary or aux output. The 1/8-inch cable or connection is the least reliable amongst DJs, but probably the most common amongst consumers. It's typically called a headphone jack or a headphone cable. However, as a DJ, you want to start thinking about the headphone jack as a 1/4-inch output, even though controllers and mixers nowadays will typically have 1/4-inch and 1/8-inch. Okay, next we're going to talk about a DJ channel. DJ channel is a word to describe the controls for a single deck on the mixer. Some mixer will have 2 channels and there'll be 1 side per channel. Some mixers will have more than 2 channels and each channel will control a dedicated deck. Next is channel gain and trim. The mixer control for how much volume the mixer should accept from each playing deck. And this control is typically a small knob. On this controller, it's right here. There's your channel gain and trim. And again, that's telling the mixer how much volume to accept from the decks. That's our first step in volume. The next step in volume is channel volume. So this is the control for how much volume the mixer should send to the master output. And this control is typically a slider. So these are your channel volumes right here. And you'll have one for each channel. This is a 2-deck mixer. If you had a 4-deck mixer, you'd have 4 channel volume sliders. The crossfader is a slider found in the middle of a 2-channel mixer to select which channel should be sent to the master output. This is an optional control and is typically used by hip-hop, open format, and battle DJs. And on this mixer, you can find it right here. If it's on the right deck will be sent to the output channel. If it's on the left deck will be sent to the output channel. And if it's in the middle, both decks will be sent to the output channel. The master output is the mixer control to adjust how much volume will be sent to the speakers. This control is typically a large knob that controls the volume of the XLR output. So on this mixer, you'll see the master level. On other mixers, it might be a larger knob. So here's the master level. And again, that is typically going to control your XLR outputs. The booth or monitor output is a mixer control to adjust how much volume will be set to the secondary set of speakers. This control is typically a knob that controls the volume to the 1/4-inch output. On this mixer, here is the booth. It's called booth monitor on here. You might see booth output or monitor output, but here's the control, typically close to the master. And again, it's going to control the secondary set of speakers, typically linked to the 1/4-inch output. And finally, the auxiliary output control is a mixer control to adjust how much volume will be sent to the 3rd set of speakers. This control is typically a knob that controls the volume of the RCA outputs. This controller does not have a dedicated auxiliary output because it's linked to the master level. So this knob will control the outputs to the XLRs as well as the RCA outputs on this mixer. Moving on to some of the controls on the decks, you have the jog wheels or the turntables. These are 2 circular devices that control what part of the song is playing as well as the temporary speed of the song that is playing. More on that later. These tools will be used to scan through songs to find entry and exit points. The play or stop button plays the song from its current position and stops the song at its current position. Very important, stops the song at its current position. The start and stop distance can typically be adjusted on the controller or the software. And here is your play pause, play stop. Cue. This word has a lot of meanings in DJing, but for beginners, it's best to think about the word cue as the preview word. If you start thinking about it as preview, a lot of this will make sense. First is the cue button on the deck. When the song is stopped, this acts as a preview button. If no cue point is set, pressing this button will set a cue point. Once the cue point is set, pressing and holding the button will play the song until the cue button is released. Once released, the song will return back to the cue point. This allows you to preview the cue point and return back to it quickly. If the song is playing, the cue point acts as a stop button that will return the song to the cue point. So when the song is playing, if you press play or pause or play or stop, it's going to stop the song where it is currently playing. If I press the cue button, it's going to stop the song and then jump back to the cue point if one was set. Very important difference. Now, once again, we're thinking about cue as the preview button. The cue button on the mixer, or cue buttons on the mixer, act as a selection tool that allows us to preview songs in the headphones. So if I were to tap these two Q buttons, I would be previewing these two channels into my headphones. The Q button basically says, hey, I want that in my headphones. There's also typically a master Q button, which will select, hey, I want the master volume in my headphones. However, sometimes, like on this example, it's just on a knob. So you can see where it says headphone mixing and the knob, it's all the way to Q, and on the other side is master. So if I change that knob, that is going to select how much of the master volume and how much of the Q or preview volume I have in my headphones. And that's the headphone mix knob. Again, this knob controls how much of the master output and how much of the channel output will be sent to the headphones. And finally, headphone level is just the overall volume of the headphones. On this mixer, it can be found on the front panel. So that's it. Those are all the essential vocabulary that I think a beginner DJ needs to succeed. You can start watching YouTube videos and understanding what they're talking about. And what you should do is go back through on the DJ dictionary, find all the things in lesson 2 and see if you can identify them on your piece of gear. For some of you, that might be a virtual DJ just on a laptop. It's going to have a lot of these things in there. If you're holding a controller, a mixer, the decks, you want to find all of these essential tools because that's what we're going to use in the next video. Thank you for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe, and we'll be back next time. What up, guys? Hope you enjoyed the video. I just want to let you know that I am offering private DJ lessons through Zoom and Discord. So if you want some one-on-one attention or you have a very specific question that you want me to answer, hit the link in the description below. Pricing is flexible, but you can probably guess that it's going to be around $100 per hour. Peace.